The exam structure for GCSE OCR R.S in the 2014 exam has always been one of those things that has confused students for quite some time. There have been many different approaches to answering the given questions, and this video is just going to give the structure that I've been told, which certainly has suited quite a sufficient amount of students and has probably got one or two a decent solid A star. So it's up to you to use whichever videos you find most easy that are out there on softwares like YouTube and things, but this video is just going to clear up in probably the most simple format the way to answer questions A, B, C, D and E. I've got here some questions that I'm going to be using as examples throughout this video, and I've put them all together on this one slide so that if you want to pause here or go back, you've got like a mini little past paper to do if you want. Right then, let's get started. So, question A. In question A, it's very, very simple. If you're treating it as mark a minute, this really you'll end up with quite a bit of spare time at the end. This has taken many people in the past a lot less than 1 minute. It can take literally 10 seconds. So if we're dealing with something like this question, what is meant by the term stewardship, you can easily just sum this up in, when I put here one word ish, that kind of mean like not necessarily it will always be a one word answer, but it doesn't have to be full sentences. And in terms of the point, evidence, explain structure, question A is just point. Okay, do not explain or give evidence for what is meant by the term stewardship. So if we're going to answer this question, then it'll be just a simple answer like this. The behaviour to look after everything that's around you. That is a decent, solid 1 mark, easy 1 mark answer for what is meant by the term stewardship. So now question B. State 2 ways in which human beings are damaging the environment. For question B, it's nearly always going to be state 2 or give 2 ways, or it's usually always going to refer to 2. And so thankfully with this we can do pretty much exactly the same as the structure for question A, only twice. We can do this in a bullet point structure. So this might look something a bit like simple 1 word answer here: littering and burning of fossil fuels. You are allowed to put bullet points in the exam. I've done so in the past and have had no complaints from examiners or anything. So state 2 ways in which humans are damaging the environment: littering, burning of fossil fuels. Done. You'll notice that that was worth 2 marks. So if you are treating this paper as mark a minute, you would have been through 3 marks now because 3 minutes now, because the question A was worth 1 mark. You're now at 2. Again, this one should take probably about half a minute to do easily. So again, you're building up of a lot of spare time now for that big question E at the end. Question 3. Give 3 reasons that Christians might use to support being eco-friendly. Now, there's a bit of an issue with question 3 in that you can't really have a defined structure for question 3, because it will either be give 3 reasons, or sometimes it might be describe. So you've got here, it may vary from describe and give 3 reasons. Okay, if it's a describe structure, then you do your point and your evidence, and then you do a super tiny explanation. Okay, almost so small that it's hardly even an explanation, because bear in mind, if it's describe, you're not explaining. If it describe, as I remember it, is say what you see, and explain is say why you see it. Explain is always that next level up, and you don't necessarily need to do this for question C if it's asking you to describe, but it would always be good to just almost like guarantee that you have gone into a pretty detailed answer, and probably guarantee those 3 marks. And if the question is asking for 3 reasons or 3 examples like this one is here, give 3 reasons that Christians might use to support being eco-friendly. Then you can do again a 3 bullet point structure, but this time try and make the sentences a bit more clear. You may want to start off in a full sentence. So an example here might be Genesis 2:25 says that God put us in the Garden of Eden to care for it. So that's one reason that Christians might support, might use to be there. One reason that Christian might use to support being eco-friendly. Some Christians say that God wants us to be stewards, and we should look after God's creation. So that's how you would go about, give 3 reasons that Christians might use to support being eco-friendly. They're pretty clear sentences. Okay, you don't really want to be doing those one-word answers now like you were before in question B or A. So now we're going to move on. Now we're going to move on to question D. Now things start to get in a tad more detail. If you noticed before, question A has been 1 mark, question B has been 2, question C has been 3. Now we're going up to double that amount from question C to 6 marks. Explain Christian attitudes towards the treatment of animals. Now bear in mind before, when we were saying that if it's asking you to describe, you don't need to do a hefty explanation, it's just a very little minor thing. Now it is asking us to explain. Oops, sorry, no, hold on. Before, when it was asking us to describe, you do a very tiny explanation because explaining is different from describing. Now it is asking us to explain, so we do want to do a solid explanation, unlike question C. Okay, and this question will be done in the format of point, evidence, explain twice. Okay, so you need 2 points and you need an evidence and explain to support those points. So this might be something quite simple like this. Explain Christian attitudes towards the treatment of animals. Some Christians may feel that we can treat animals as we wish. That's my point. This may be because Genesis 1:26 says God made humans, and now come into the quote, let them rule over the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea and all animals. That's my evidence. You can tell, the examiners can tell when you're using your evidence if you use the word because, if you're using quotes, or my example to back my point is this, because we usually indicate that you're using explain, but these Christians therefore may believe this means we have a greater control or power in comparison with animals, and there's my explanation. The explanation uses your evidence to show why your point is correct. So other Christians, however, may say God cares about how we treat animals. This is coming into my second point, evidence, explain, because you do that in Stucture twice. So that's my point. An example of why this may be is because Luke 12:6 says that Jesus taught God does not forget animals no matter what humans say they're worth. The example here are sparrows. There's my evidence, and to explain this evidence to back my point, I'm going to say this backs my point as it suggests God has an awareness of care towards animals. So again, a pretty simple structure. This may take a tad more time now. You may be spending up to around 5 minutes, ideally 5 if you can, so that then you can have that extra minute, because all these the spare time that you've been building up from doing 10 seconds in question A, which you have a limit of 1 minute for, is all building up to this final question. Question E. The human race is more important than the environment. Discuss this statement. You should include different supportive points of view and a personal viewpoint. You must refer to Christianity in your answer. So now it gets into a bit more detail. Okay, pretty much everything, with the exception of the contradiction section, which I'll get onto in a bit, is in a point, evidence, explain format. So you open up with your view, you then open up with a Christian, you open up with your view in point, evidence, explain. Your view is your view on the given quote, by the way, and then you do a Christian view on the quote, and then you do another view on the quote. This other view can be any view you wish that isn't your own view, because you've already discussed that one. It could be another Christian view, it could be a different religion's view, it could be an atheist view, or whatever you wish. And once you've done that, these first 3 bullet points here have kind of been setting up almost like a debate or an argument, and this 4th bullet point that you're now going to come into is going to really up those marks. Okay, what you're going to talk about now are issues with the argument so far. Okay, in other words, what can you use to contradict the views that have been raised so far. And you don't really need an evidence for this. You just need your point and explain. So if, say for example, the Christian view, using a different example up here. Okay, we'll just forget this. Forget this quote statement for the time being. Okay, if the Christian view that you've raised is that God is all powerful, then you could say one of the issues with the argument so far involves the parable of the stone. And if you don't know what that is, there's a link for you here, which will just send you to a video I've made that will explain the parable of the stone for you. And you can and the parable of the stone would be your point, and then you just explain why that diminishes the Christian view of God being all powerful. Then you might want to do one for your view, and then maybe another for another view. But so long as you're contradicting the argument so far, or raising an issue with the argument so far, then you're doing the right thing. And then finally, just leave off with a conclusion, which is basically an overall sum up. Okay, there's not a particular structure for this. There's no point, evidence, explain sort of thing for a conclusion. You just say, overall, my response to this statement is, a Christian response might be this, another view might be this, however there will always be the issue of this argument being, and then so on. Okay, no more than 2 to 3 lines will easily do your conclusion. Okay, that's me done, and I hope you use this video to your advantage, and good luck in the exam.